Have you ever met someone who was incredibly confident in their abilities but their actual performance left much to be desired? Perhaps it was a friend who swore they could sing but sounded like a cat in a blender. Or maybe it was a colleague who presented a foolproof plan that was, well, anything but foolproof. These situations highlight a fascinating cognitive bias known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. This effect, named after social psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger, describes the tendency for people with low competence in a particular area to overestimate their abilities. Think of it like this. Imagine you're at a party, and someone starts talking about quantum physics. You've only heard the term in passing, but suddenly this person is explaining complex theories with absolute certainty. You might be impressed thinking, wow, they really know their stuff. But what if they're just really good at using big words they don't fully understand? That's the Dunning-Kruger effect in action. It can manifest in everyday situations from cooking to driving to social interactions. In their groundbreaking 1999 study, Dunning and Kruger conducted experiments to investigate the relationship between self-perception and actual competence. They tested participants on their abilities in areas like humor, logical reasoning, and grammar. The results were intriguing. The study found that those who performed the worst consistently overestimated their abilities. In other words, the least competent individuals were the most confident in their skills. Conversely, the top performers tended to underestimate their abilities, assuming that others were equally knowledgeable. Imagine a graph. On one axis you have actual competence. On the other, you have perceived competence. The Dunning-Kruger effect suggests that instead of a straight diagonal line, there's a curve. This disconnect between perception and reality can lead to poor decision-making and missed opportunities for growth. Why are we so prone to overestimating our abilities in areas where we lack competence? The answer lies in the interplay between metacognition, our ability to think about our own thinking, and cognitive biases. When we lack competence in a particular area, we also lack the necessary knowledge and experience to accurately assess our performance. This means we're not only bad at something, but we're also bad at knowing we're bad at it. Furthermore, our brains are wired to protect our egos. We have a natural tendency to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs, even if those beliefs are inaccurate. So, the next time you're tempted to boast about your expertise, consider the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect isn't just a psychological curiosity, it's something we encounter in various aspects of our lives. Let's take a look at some relatable examples. The overconfident driver. We've all been there, stuck behind a car driving painstakingly slow in the fast lane. The driver, oblivious to the line of frustrated motorists behind them, remains steadfast in their belief that they are driving perfectly fine. This is a classic example of the Dunning-Kruger effect in action. The know-it-all colleague. There's always one in every workplace. The colleague who seems to have an opinion on everything, even subjects outside their area of expertise. They dominate meetings with their expert insights, often based on limited information or flawed reasoning. The social media guru. In the age of social media, everyone fancies themselves an expert on something, leading to the spread of misinformation. Recognizing these patterns in ourselves and others is the first step towards mitigating the potential negative consequences of this cognitive bias. At its core, the Dunning-Kruger effect stems from a lack of metacognition, the ability to reflect on our own thinking processes. When we lack competence in a specific area, we also lack the necessary mental tools to accurately evaluate our performance in that area. It's like trying to judge the quality of a cake without having tasted it or knowing the difference between flour and baking powder. Our brains, wired to protect our egos, often step in to fill this void with a healthy dose of self-serving bias. We tend to attribute our successes to our innate abilities while blaming our failures on external factors. The Dunning-Kruger effect isn't about being arrogant or delusional, it's about the limitations of our own self-awareness. It's a reminder that true competence requires not only knowledge and skills, but also the humility to recognize our limitations. Overcoming the Dunning-Kruger effect tips for continuous learning. The good news is that the Dunning-Kruger effect isn't a life sentence to a cycle of overconfidence and blunders. By cultivating self-awareness and embracing a growth mindset, we can mitigate the negative impacts of this cognitive bias. Here are some practical tips. Embrace humility. Acknowledge that you don't know everything, and that's okay. True expertise comes from a place of humility, recognizing that there's always more to learn. Seek feedback. Actively solicit feedback from trusted sources, especially those with more experience or expertise than you. Don't be afraid to ask for constructive criticism. It's an invaluable tool for growth. Embrace challenges. Step outside your comfort zone and embrace challenges that push you beyond your perceived limitations. Cultivate a growth mindset. Believe that your abilities are not fixed, but can be developed through dedication, effort, and a willingness to learn from mistakes.